All right, welcome back to Eliminate the Gap. We are delighted once again that you've decided to spend some time and join us this morning. What we would like to do is we have a very exciting guest who normally resides in Lebanon, not Indiana, but the country. But she happens to be visiting the States, so we wanted to take advantage of that. And Sharuk, as you know, is joining us in from Cairo. So once again, we've got our global contingency ready to tackle this, I think, very interesting, innovative platform and be able to dig a little deeper into what's happening, particularly in the international development market. So with that, I want to welcome the CEO of Keylime, and we'll learn more about that here in a moment, but Susanne Barsoum. So welcome, Susanne.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
You bet, you bet. So let me just go ahead, because as you know, I discovered Keylime, over the past year, and I know it was in existence before then, before I discovered it, of course. But I'm sure there's some folks out there that aren't maybe familiar with it yet. And so I see this Keylime as this kind of innovative platform. So if you don't mind just kind of giving us the 10,000-foot view of not only what it is, but kind of why you created it.
Sure. Well, thanks again for inviting me. I'm really excited to have a conversation with you guys and have that, shared widely with the audience as well. So I started Keylime in 2018. Keylime broadly is a support services consulting firm, but we're powered by our online marketplace, and that's really kind of the big innovation and really a huge differentiator for us. I came up with the idea for Keylime when I was working as a new business director for a large implementer of USAID programs. And I personally struggled a lot with the process for finding and hiring a consultant. And, sometimes I would need a consultant instantaneously, but it would take me days to find and hire someone. And this is coming from a seat of power, really working at the largest implementer of USAID programs. And I thought there has to be a better way to do this. So we built the Keyline Marketplace, which is, you could say it's like the Airbnb of international development consulting. So it's an online marketplace where consultants have profiles and organizations can go search using USAID filters. So using things like the roles that we typically hire for on USAID programs, and also technical areas that are unique to USAID or defined by USAID. And organizations and consultants can work through that whole workflow really instantaneously of reaching out to someone, sharing information. A lot of information is proactively shared on the profile. So information that normally you would go back and forth on an email about,
right.
Like what is your daily rate, or are you available next month? And they can complete the workflow sometimes in minutes, but usually it takes a couple of hours. And we're taking what we've measured to be 27 steps, the process of searching, finding, outreach, and eventually hiring a consultant. And we've taken it down to about 4 steps. So organizations can complete the workflow. So when they decided they want to work with someone, they click hire, and then they can get to work immediately. And all of the administrative processes are automated by our platform. So they're all kind of baked in there. And these are repeat tasks that have kind of little added value. There's really not a lot of added value of having an email to talk about someone's daily rate, or an email to ask when they're available, or an email to ask if they've had prior experience doing something. And all that's baked in so that they can move more expediently through that process and get to what they want to do, which is get the real work done, working
right.
on these USAID proposals and projects.
Yeah, and I can just attest, I've gone through the process. I'm available for hire if you're in there. But nonetheless, it was a very simple, seamless process for me as somebody wanting to input information in there. So yeah, I definitely echo that.
Wow, that is actually quite amazing. I was just talking to Eric before we started recording and telling him this startup is pretty much what we have been attempting to do, but in a very informal manner. Whenever we have projects that we want to submit, or we're looking for certain experts and trying to think out of the box as to who we can get. And as a female that has just started her own startup, I'm sure that this has been quite a challenge, especially in this kind of field, because you are pretty much entering the lion's den, as one can put it. Honestly, you're doing something that's state of the art, and you're going into a community that is pretty much traditional with regards to their expectations, and who are the people they have a tendency to to go out there and get, and all of these things. So how's that been for you? Especially that you just began also in 2018 and the COVID hit, and just insane period. Absolutely.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was definitely it was an interesting time, and I think I still need like years to look back and determine like how COVID really impacted us, because it was certainly a challenging moment in time, but we were also early enough in our growth that like, we weren't a huge organization yet, right? So like when you're impacted as a very small business, you can be so much more agile than as a medium or large business. But it did change kind of like the direction we were going in. I think in general, like entering in, like moving into, well, introducing an innovation, sort of a kind of a new way of doing things in a field that is really slow to change. And we have a lot of like bureaucracy in our field, and we have a lot of like kind of rigid ways of doing things. We're not a field that is like led by innovation, unfortunately. That has been a huge challenge, but that's kind of the challenge that we signed up for, right? Like we knew we're trying to fix a problem, and they say, if you want to start like a great business, fix your own problem. And that's really like what I was doing is, I started the business saying, I know exactly what it feels like to hire a consultant, and how difficult it can be, and how many steps I have to go through and hoops I have to jump through. And like, I'm going to fix that problem. I'm going to fix my own problem. So, in that sense, like I already had like customer number one is like, I knew exactly, what those who have the same role that I had experienced, and, what they need. But that said, our industry is really antiquated in terms of business processes. And we have this incredible bird's eye view, because we can see the organizations that adopt our tool. They don't just adopt our tool, they really adopt a new way of thinking, and they embrace a new way of looking at how they interact with consultants, and they leapfrog ahead. Like we've worked with, businesses that are, maybe medium sized and growing, and they adopt our tool and they just kind of blaze ahead. We've worked with large businesses who've been, working in this field for literally decades, and they come to us telling us they have these very specific challenges, and really everyone has the same challenge. So it's never new information. And they come back to us and say that they've been able to kind of like operate, sort of at this like lightning speed that they weren't able to operate at before, despite having, in theory, access to, infinite resources as, very large organizations, nonprofits or companies. There is a challenge. I'm sure, I think what you were asking is, about, also being a woman-owned business, and, the specific challenges of being a woman-owned business. And, I get asked this question a lot, and I don't ever want to brush aside the sort of challenge, the inherent challenge of being a woman-owned business. But I can't say I see explicitly like, specific barriers that we've hit. But I know that like, our industry is like very pale, male, and stale in a lot of ways. And, we see like these, sorry, Eric, sorry. doesn't mean that, there isn't like tremendous value coming out of people like Eric, but, despite being kind of an industry that is really rooted in, kind of social good and social progress, we still have some of the traditional challenges of gender biases and really like good old boy networks. And as I like to say, like the bro posses, like they're not the good old boys, they're the good young boys. But but
Mhm.
but we've also seen like great traction, and we attract all of our clients and our consultants organically. And I think it's because people like how we operate. And I'd like to attribute some of that to like values that we hold that are probably rooted in being a woman-owned business. And I think that has actually been sort of like a seed of growth for us. So like a core value of ours is respecting people's time. I started Keylime as a mother of a newborn, which is kind of crazy, crazy time to start a business. And many of our consultants are also mothers or parents who have other family responsibilities and schedules that are tethered to like school pickup, and things like that. And we see the time of our staff, our consultants, and our clients as like incredibly precious. And the core value of respecting people's time is ultimately something everyone benefits from. And you don't have to be a woman to appreciate that, but I do think that being one of our core values has actually resulted in us seeing a lot of organic, growth in our users, both our consultants and our clients, because people come to us and they feel this refreshing feeling of like, I can do so much so quickly. I don't have anyone wasting my time. I can move quickly from step one to step two. And that's something that everyone really wants in this world.
That's really incredible. I mean, I guess one of the key values that we hold dear to ourselves, especially being women and working in the field of development, is that we are absolutely committed, and we have to be very respectful of everybody's time, especially those that who put trust into us and into the work that we're doing. And we always want to make sure that we're really giving everything that we have out there. And one of the things, of course, is also being very much aware of the trends and the changes that are taking place um, by agencies, different donor agencies, and how they are starting to do quite a lot of work that integrates the nonprofit sector and integrates private sector contractors, and they have like I don't know, a key set of skill sets, one can say, that has been put forward. And many people and many consultants, especially in different parts of the world, are still trying to get around these skill sets and build into that. So, what are the different skill sets that you have seen coming to light, especially for the non-government and private sector and government organizations who are partnering with development agencies?
Yeah, well, I want to actually jump on two things that you said. One is the question you asked directly, and the other is really about like understanding kind of the trends that donor agencies are like the direction that they're going and what they're looking for, and also the skill sets. So like one of the trends, and this is also very much aligned with our values, one of the trends with USAID is that they are really eager to diversify their partner base, right? They want to see, they want to like kind of take take down some of the barriers to entry for different organizations to partner with USAID. This is something they've been challenged with, for a long time, but they're taking very concrete steps to allow new businesses and nonprofits all over the world, and specifically in the countries that they operate, to partner with them directly. But it's a very lofty goal, and it's not easy to achieve. And one of our core values is like radical transparency. So we really believe in kind of like opening up everything about how we operate. And that's kind of one of the key principles behind the marketplace, right? Is like anyone can go in and see this massive bench of consultants. Like, this is the bench of USAID specialists, and that is like a real gold mine, right? For if you're an organization that's trying to break into this area for the first time. This is something that other organizations have spent decades trying to build up, and we're just opening it up for everybody. So that's a real opportunity both for the consultants, so they can now connect with new organizations, and it's not built on who you know. It's not built on networks. It's built on the transparency of our system. And then the same thing for the organizations that use it. It's you don't have to, for example, like fly to DC and get introductions and do these things that have very high barriers to get introductions to the right consultants to get this work done. So that transparency is kind of like a radical shift, and we hope it's one that is going to be like jet fuel in everyone's engines to be working with USAID, both the consultants and the organizations that are looking to work with USAID, and kind of help USAID propel them towards this goal, and ultimately like result in better international development, right? Because if you're a great organization that has some incredible practice of work that you want to deliver to USAID programming, but that's not your specialty, you can now kind of link up with people who have that USAID expertise to make it happen. In terms of the consultants and like what the organizations and what USAID and other donors are really looking for, we specialize very much in USAID programming. So our kind of client base is primarily looking for everything in the fundamentals of USAID programming. So that's proposal development to project management. I would say the most sought after skills are proposal writers, project managers, proposal managers, recruiters, cost preparers. And we really look for people with demonstrated experience doing all of those workflows. So people who can kind of drop in and get it done. And who can parlay their prior USAID experience, and that is kind of what really is the common thread amongst all of the consultants who work with Keylime, is that they have prior experience working on USAID programs, and that demonstrated skill is what most of our clients are looking for.
Would you say at this point that your bench on Keylime are US-based consultants, or are you seeing a growing number of consultants joining Keylime from around the world?
It's definitely a mix of both. So I would actually put 3 categories in there. So there's US-based consultants. So these are people who've probably worked at one of the USAID firms or nonprofits, and they've moved to freelancing, and they're still based in the United States, anywhere in the US. There are essentially Americans working overseas. So there are people who also used to work for USAID implementers, probably in the US, and for whatever reason they're living overseas. A whole bunch of reasons, a lot of personal reasons. We have some people who, for example, like left the US during COVID because their country of origin is overseas, and during COVID said, I want to go be back with my family. So they, went back, but they couldn't keep their US based job, so they're freelancing. And then we have international consultants who are not American, perhaps have never worked in the US for the implementers, but have worked on USAID programs in their home countries. And those consultants are also able to now work for organizations in their home country, but also in other countries. So, we have Lebanese consultants who are working on projects in Egypt, or we have, Nigerian consultants who can work on a project in Ghana. So we're kind of actually creating this really, it's like a new market in some ways, right? Of allowing people to kind of expand their own area of work a little bit, cross border.
Well, so a couple things go through my head. So one, I come from the extremely bloated days of the large nonprofit or government contractor model, where you had these people that are now on your bench. They were on that company's bench, and were being paid, and then they would be activated. But it's an archaic business model for them, and rightly they figured out that doesn't work so much anymore to do it that way. So then there became this shift. Well, we need to hire everybody locally, which is great. And don't misunderstand me, that I think that is a tremendous, but then they didn't have the resources to go identify these folks. And so what I see that Keyline is doing is that it's taking some of the talented folks that may have been in this previous model, and still having them connected to the game, and then having a great resource. And this was always our challenge, was identifying talented people in country or nearby country, regionally, that could be long-term staffing or come in and do a significant role in a project, and being able to identify those folks very quickly. And that whole startup process seemed to almost take a year, right, of a 5-year project or what have you. And so I love the fact that you started this interview talking about time. And that's one of the things that I definitely see, not just the time of me filling it out as a potential consultant, or me as a contractor, but really getting the project up and running and actually being implemented. So I just wanted to reflect a little bit on kind of that from my perspective. Again, as folks out here listening that have been in either what I just described, or maybe still are, or very excited about the opportunity to spin things up much more quickly. I hope that you're hearing, capture, right? Something we always got to find consultants for. It seems like we got to do capture. All right, great. So and then we're writing our proposal as you went through. And those proposal writers, if you're really good, man, you've written your own ticket for years. And the thing is, there are a lot of folks that are good at it. Now we can all identify with a couple clicks. So I love that. And then what I just described, which is the actual spin up and project implementation part. I mean, Sharuk, when we first started working there in Egypt, you remember how difficult it was to staff an office, with all the various roles, so it's just one of those things. So I wanted to kind of reflect that a little bit as we kind of move to kind of wrapping our conversation up. So if I'm listening today, Susanne, and I'm either a government or I'm a contractor, I know you have hundreds of MOUs in place with a lot of organizations already, but maybe not everybody. There's probably some folks that haven't begun to work with USAID, but could really benefit from being connected to you, as well as other consultants. How do we go about this? Give us the kind of steps that we need to go through to be connected, and then ultimately be on Keyline to begin our work.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna jump on one thing you were just saying, and then I will tell everyone exactly how to find us and work with us. So, you're talking about the complexity, or the sort of time abusive process that we often use for things like, capture or startup. And really, like, the way that we're operating is taking any, business function, business process that we all have been scratching our heads at for probably years, saying like, why do we have to fly someone out just to, do an interview, or, things like that. And we're optimizing it. So it does apply to each of the steps in the process related to hiring. And we actually have spun off some really cool tools that have enormous potential that I'll just preview here too, which is we've also spun up the ability to do custom marketplaces. So what that is like it's taking the marketplace technology and customizing it for a specific purpose. So you could say we are starting up a large project in Egypt, and we expect to be using a huge amount of STTA, short-term technical assistance. We need a lot of consultants, or we need to staff a full office. So we're going to start a marketplace just for Egypt in, say, the education sector.
Sure.
And we'll do kind of a social media campaign where we promote the marketplace to this specific audience. So we know who these people are. They're people of a certain background. We write like personas. These are the typical consultants. These are the typical employees. We know kind of where they are on social media. They're on LinkedIn or they're on Twitter. We do a campaign to attract them. We onboard, say 100 or 200, whoever the candidate pool is. And then we launch a tailored marketplace just for that purpose. So the search filters might be different. They might be, instead of having a search filter for agriculture, because we're talking about education, it might be the subfields of education. And we would onboard all of the consultants there. And then now this project has this sub-community that they can work with for the life of their project. And that means they can easily access consultants for the whole lifetime of that project, that 5-year project. So it's a really cool way to kind of build sort of an economy of scale when we put all this work into, designing projects, building a network, building an audience for a project, and then, retain it for the life of the project so that that project always has this community that they can interface with and hire people expediently. So how to work with us? If you're a consultant, you just go to www.joinkeyline.com and you can join as a consultant. So it's going to ask you a couple questions, and because we're focused on consultants who have prior experience with USAID, it's going to verify that. So it'll make sure that you do have USAID experience. And what it will do then is, if you do have USAID experience, it'll invite you to create a profile. You create your profile, and then you're going to have an onboarding call with one of our staff. So where we're going to really walk you through what to expect. We're going to optimize your profile, make sure it's set up properly, make sure it looks good for what our clients are looking for. And then that's it. Then you wait and people will reach out to you. And a lot of consultants get offers for positions for consulting roles the same day that they create a profile,
Nice.
or within a couple of days. And then if you're an organization, you can reach out to us at hello@joinkeyline.com, or you can actually go online and start a trial account right away. And that gives you full access to see all the consultants, reach out and start a process. And a lot of organizations do that. They may think they want to have like a demo or talk to us, but a lot of times they create an account like on the weekend, like when they're probably like staying up late at night worrying about how they're going to get something done like on Monday, and they have a consultant already lined up by Monday. And it's pretty awesome. So we are more than happy to set up a time to talk and walk you through the process. But if you are in a pinch, it's also really easy to just get going and start right away.
That's awesome. And I love to hear about it makes a lot of sense, right? To target the tool in the marketplace is one of them. And this is a big nut to crack, and you all are well on your way, clearly, in that regard. I do hope someday somebody cracks the monitoring and evaluation nut, just because also that time consumption that it seems to be replicated over and over and over again. And we pretend to approach it each time as if it were brand new. Anyway, that's another day, another opportunity to have a conversation. Susanne, it's been wonderful to have you share so much about what Keylime's been able to do and is continuing to do. Any parting words there? Sharuk, before we wrap?
I'm definitely going to check out this venture, definitely, as a consultant and as a company that's always looking for, different consultants. It's very interesting, honestly, and the fact that you're also tailoring this according to the different countries is really good, because every country has, significant differences in terms of what it is that they're expecting in terms of
Yeah.
experts and all of
And
that.
significant
So
talent pools, right? Significant talent
yeah,
pools, and
absolutely. Oh
not
yeah,
everybody is on LinkedIn. And I know from my own experience, a lot of times you only connect to people because someone gave you their phone number or, did a personal introduction. And we're kind of taking that whole experience, that whole process and sort of consolidating it so that, this access to talent and access to talented resources is kind of being democratized for everyone.
Absolutely.
yes, that's true.
On that note, again, thank you. And thank you to all of you who spent some time with us viewing and or listening to this podcast. Again, it's been our pleasure once again for you to take some time and spend with us. So again, thank you,
Thanks.
Susanne, and we'll see you on down the road.
Thank you, guys. Really enjoyed the conversation.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.